Since I picked it up in 2017 and subsequently couldn't put it down, NieR Automata has remained one of my favorite games of all time. It's one of those that stuck with me in a way that I don't think I'll ever grow out of. I'd always been interested in going back to NieR, or NieR Replicant, or NieR Gestalt, or whatever, to see where it all began, but every consensus I saw was that it was too clunky and unpolished to be worth revisiting. Over time, I think that's proved to be true, so when Yoko Taro, the game's director, announced this remaster, I nearly wept with excitement. NieR Replicant version 1.22, which I will be calling it from now on, drifted closer and closer to the top of my hype list as we approached the release. 1.5 months later, I've reached ending E, and I'm not quite the same person I was when I began. And that's for the better. NieR Replicant version 1.22 is a strange hybrid of a remake and a remaster. The main character models have been rebuilt from the ground up and textured like 2021 characters, while the world and items have just been up-resed and just kind of fine-tuned a little bit. Combat has been completely redone with consultation from Platinum Games, who made NieR Automata, so it's much smoother and faster than the original NieR, while not being quite as fast as what Automata has to offer. The original game also had 4 endings, A through D only, but a 5th ending E loosely based on the companion novella Grimoire NieR that released alongside the original NieR game has been added to the story. I won't spoil ending E other than to say that it connects the story directly to Automata and it serves as the true ending of NieR. NieR Replicant version 1.22 sets the player into an almost suspiciously tropey JRPG fantasy world. Let's look at our JRPG fantasy world checklist. NieR wakes up in a quaint village, has a younger sister, no parents, sees an encroaching threat of demons moving towards the village, has a mysterious power bestowed upon him seemingly by accident, takes up arms to save his sister's life. Very standard JRPG fare, huh? Or maybe that's what Yoko Taro wants you to think. As a teenager, NieR ventures through a semi-open world to complete inane and innocuous fetch quests, which the characters do openly complain about in the game, in pursuit of finding a cure for the Black Scrawl, a mysterious but fatal disease that has beset his younger sister Yona. The two of them were raised collectively by the village, but especially by twin sisters Popola and Devila, who treat them like family. Popola is wildly intelligent, but she's reserved and calculated in her decision-making. Devila is a singer who prefers to stay in the background during the important conversations. By the end of the story, Popola had become one of my favorite characters. The twins really give off this big sister vibe that I'm a big fan of, and I thoroughly enjoyed their dynamic with NieR. NieR himself is a mild-mannered boy. He's innocent, he's optimistic, unabashedly kind. He's never one to turn down a request for help, and I think that's maybe his greatest weakness and his greatest strength. Before long, those errands bring him to the first member of the party that joins just about an hour in, Grimoire Weiss.
For the love of all that is holy, would you please stop pounding me?
Then move!
Grimoire Weiss is a magical floating book that stays at NieR's side through to the end, and as the player unlocks the sealed verses, he gains more and more magical powers for the player to use. He's also a grumpy, prim and proper old man who might just have a heart of gold underneath that dismissive exterior. He's got a bone to pick with his evil twin, Grimoire Noir, and he accompanies NieR on his quest to find the Book of Darkness, in the hopes that a cure for the Black Scrawl can be found. He's one of my favorite companions ever in a game, and what's crazier still is that the rest of the party is just as endearing.
Weiss, you dumbass! Start making sense, you rotten book, or you're gonna be sorry! Maybe I'll rip your pages out one by one, or maybe I'll put you in the goddamn furnace! How can someone with such a big smart brain get hypnotized like a little bitch, huh? Oh, Shadow Lord, I love you, Shadow Lord! Come over here and give Weiss a big sloppy kiss, Shadow Lord! Now pull your head out of your goddamn ass and start fucking helping us!
NieR and Weiss search for the rest of the sealed verses while meeting a host of colorful characters along the way. Special shout out to the Ferryman and the Masked King. And they're eventually joined by the foul-mouthed, mid-20s woman named Kaine. Kaine lives just outside the Eyrie, a village built over a chasm in between cliffs, and she's been an outcast from the day she was born. Kaine is intersex, and although she's a woman, she was deemed a monster by the village. Abandoned by everyone but her grandmother, Kaine's life became a living hell after the death of her only family. In the last few years, she has dedicated her life to killing shades in the vain hope that she can avenge her grandmother's death and put the world to right. Until she meets NieR. Soon enough, the squad is complete when we're joined by Emil, a young boy with cursed eyes that turn everyone he looks at to stone. He's never been able to get close to anyone, nor has he been able to see the face of anyone he meets. Emil is the epitome of kindness. Despite drawing a cursed lot in life, he knows nothing but compassion, optimism, faith, and an open heart. When NieR and Kaine adopt him into the party, you'll already be tearing up for fear of what might happen to this precious found family. The reason I'm going into such detail here about the characters is to impress upon you, the viewer, that this group of NieR, Kaine, Emil, and Grimoire Weiss is the most beautiful and endearing party I've ever come across in a video game. I love them, plain and simple. In a way that far outpaces 2B and 9S from Automata, these characters became real to me over 40 hours like almost no other game has ever accomplished, maybe save for Final Fantasy XV. While Automata relies on theme and allegory to drive its story, the characters are the true strength of Replicant. It's just been a day or two, but I miss their banter already. I can still hear Weiss angrily calling Kaine a hussy with just a touch of admiration, and see that smile echo across NieR's face while Emil chuckles softly.
For the last time, my name is Grimoire Weiss, and it is not to be abbreviated.
Weiss! Weiss!
Good to see you, Kaine. Although I don't think anyone has ever accused me of being a little bitch before. And you, we meet again.
Weiss, you okay?
I believe I could ask you the same question right now.
Impossible. We must unite. We must become as one.
I don't like you, and I want nothing to do with you. Besides, I have my companions.
You're back!
Of course they're weak, and they whine when I leave.
Weiss!
It's almost too much trouble, but they are my friends. I shall fight by their side, now and forever.
Weiss, thanks.
Combat is solid. It never felt tedious, although I also wouldn't list it as a top feature of Replicant version 1.22. Players will switch between one of 37 unique upgradable weapons, each of which handles a little bit differently, alongside 9 magic spells that they can switch between freely. Replicant version 1.22 features Platinum Games' signature perfect dodges and perfect parries too, so alongside the aerial attacks, that'll provide enough variety to keep things interesting. Combat is certainly slower and a little more methodical than Automata, but overall the movement keeps the octane running high. Enemy variety is just enough to keep you from getting bored, although they are all basically some form of shades. You'd be forgiven if it gets a little too samey for you eventually. The world is very beautiful for a 2009 game. The remaster doesn't do too much to make the actual landscapes look better, but it does do wonders for cutscenes and character interactions. Looking at it like a version update, as Yoko Taro has specified, it makes a little bit more sense than calling it a remake or a remaster. Regardless, the world is kept alive by these colorful NPCs, grazing animals, and shades galore. And of course, we cannot forget the soundtrack. Many people have said that NieR Automata has one of the best soundtracks of all time. I am also one of those people. Against all the odds, however, I think the score of Replicant slightly outdoes it. I find myself humming nearly every track in the game, especially the overworld theme, during the day, and it made me excited to return to the game that evening. Keiichi Okabe, who scored Automata as well, is one of the most skilled composers of our time. His fusion of the upbeat strings and the melancholy vocals is strange, exciting, and unmistakable. Okabe returned for Replicant version 1.22 to remaster the score and to write new music for the new ending. Regardless of which one edges the other out, the NieR games boast two of the most impressive scores in video game history. You may still be wondering what's so truly special about this game. Why are you calling it a masterpiece? Why is everybody calling it a masterpiece? It's something you'll need to experience on your own. NieR Replicant version 1.22 is perhaps the slowest burning game I've ever played, but once the burn starts, it does not let up. The game will be tedious at times, put it out of your mind, and just continue the main story. What you are doing will make sense in retrospect. I highly recommend you check out one of the ending guides, here's a spoiler-free one in the description, to ensure you don't waste any extra time to get all the endings. You're going to be playing parts of the game 2 to 3 times, not the entire game over again, parts of it, but each consecutive playthrough you'll keep your weapons and your levels, so it gets easier and faster. I encourage you to play this game on a slower pace. Putting in 1 to 2 hours a day over the course of 6 weeks proved to me to be the perfect pace to play it at. I feel like if you try to binge this game, you're going to wear yourself out really quickly. NieR Replicant version 1.22 is probably not going to win a lot of Game of the Year awards, and I think that's okay. It is tedious at times, and it doesn't respect the player's time occasionally, and the plot moves along so very slowly. This is a story about finding out what it means to be human, though. Our inexplicable ability to let down the walls around our hearts with the knowledge that we will be hurt someday, this is what it means to love, and that is what makes us human. The magic of this game is in finding that you've fallen in love with these characters, watching them fight for what they love, and having your own heart ripped apart and stitched back together alongside them. Replicant overall has a few more flaws than Automata, but I still feel good calling it a bona fide masterpiece. While it hasn't cracked my top 10 like Automata did, it's earned a very safe place among my all-time favorites. I implore you to give this game a try. I understand it may not be for everyone, but if it is for you, I hope you can feel just half of what I felt. Now get to it, hussy. NieR Replicant version 1.22. Recommended. I reviewed NieR Replicant version 1.22 on PlayStation 5 with a code that I purchased myself. Thank you all for watching. If you're interested in more video reviews or just some fun gaming content or news, features, all that stuff, hit us up at Gameluster.com and make sure to like and subscribe.